Our theme this fall season is back from the national stage. And in June and July, we had a tremendous 10 days of excitement at the 2017 Smithsonian Folklife Festival. It was the 50th anniversary of the festival, but more important for us, it celebrated and honored the circus arts. And so for this run, we are looking at people who come from a deep circus background, but also have maybe insight in what the Smithsonian did for us all in the circus world, and also tell us about how important looking forward to the future. And so today, we are truly honored to have Cedric Walker, the owner, producer of UniverSoul Circus, a circus that really has brought the globe to the circus ring. And so today we're going to start off learning a little bit about Cedric, to know about his vision and mission for this incredible circus called UniverSoul. And then we're going to pick his mind to see the wonders of what's going to happen to the circus as we know it. So today, we will start off with, just like the Ringling boys who dreamed one day of owning a circus, how did you come to dream about the circus and wanting to own one?
Well, it started there was a time in my life after promoting shows, promoting theater. I promoted concerts for a great deal of my life. I promoted theater, and I traveled around the country in the rock and roll business, and I was looking for something else. And I was doing theater. We did gospel theater, and while we were doing gospel theater, we did themes that focused on the social ills in our community. But it was uplifting, and we did major theaters. We were in the Beacon Theater in New York, and I was walking through a theater in Pittsburgh, I think it was the Benedum Theater, and I saw whole families, and African-American families, and we had a play called, I think it was Wicked Ways, and it was another one called Mama Don't, and it was basically about how the drugs were affecting the communities and the gang problems, but we did it in a very lighthearted way, and it was fun to look at, and so the whole family would come. And I saw grandmother, father, daughter. I saw a row where they actually had toddlers sleep in the theater. You know, they brought the whole family to see the play, and at that moment, I thought I was used to seeing adults bringing each other to the play, and I went back to the playwright, and I said, man, there were kids, there were families out there at the plays, and we were packing them in to see the play, and the playwright said, Cedric, theater is the oldest form of entertainment, and from Shakespeare, a great play is one that people can see themselves. And in these shows, the people are seeing themselves, the people from the community. So at that very moment, I thought that, wow, there's no reflection of urban America there in family attractions. And so that was the beginning of the idea. But it wasn't yet the idea for a circus. But it was an idea to reach for more. And I was influenced. Spike Lee was producing a lot of movies, and they were movies that reflected our culture, but they were entertaining as well. And I said to myself, I wanted to be the Spike Lee of the live entertainment industry. So that was the beginning of the thoughts.
So, did you go to the circus as a child?
Oh, yeah, the circus was bigger than life. I mean, it was Disneyland right in front of you that came to your doorstep for me. The tall men, absolutely, the lion tamers, the I mean, just every aspect of it, just it was so creative, so imaginative, and just so rich with dreams. And so I loved the circus, and I went. And when me and my brother went home, we practiced acts. He was older, so he was always the trainer, and I was the acts. Yes.
Good on that. Then you moved from Baltimore to Alabama. And what enriched your life or
changed my life, actually, would be a good word for it. I grew up in the inner city in Baltimore, and it was a very dangerous community and neighborhood, and my father wanted me to get away and sent me to Alabama to go to school at Tuskegee. And I was working and I always say I found my career by volunteering. I was working washing dishes in a bar, in a nightclub, in backwoods nightclub in Alabama. And I would volunteer to help the bands that will perform there. I would help them put their equipment in and take it out. I think because I was washing dishes in the kitchen that I didn't have a chance to get out, and some of the girls hung around the band. So I volunteered to help the band, but that led to learning how to set up the guitar, the drums, and that led to, and I traveled with the bands. So one of the takeaways was the volunteering and how valuable that was in me finding my passion. I found my passion watching the interaction between the audience and the performers. It was such a magical experience to watch, even in a beer joint in the backwoods, to watch a guitar player do a solo and a band work a crowd up to a frenzy of banging beer cans on the table. And that followed me. The band that I was working with, that I worked with several bands in several clubs. One of them was the Commodores with Lionel Richie. And I ended up touring with them. And we were the opening act for the Jackson 5. And when we started, and we toured with the Jackson 5 back in the early 70s. And when you talk about working a crowd and how that magic has stayed with me even till today, I remember we were in an arena, and I don't know whether it was St. Louis or Madison Square Garden with the Jacksons, and the power went out. And everyone, it was just totally kind of on the verge of freaking out. The hole was full of people, 10,000, 15,000 people. And Michael started clapping his hands. And he walked over to the drummer, and the drummer started getting a beat. And then Michael started singing, and he just totally took control. The whole audience went crazy. And that was the passion that those are the things that I take away from those experiences that just live with you, just that magic between the performer and the audience.
Wow. But you never stopped dreaming about the circus.
No, actually the Commodores, we performed at Ringling Brothers, and I thought that was the greatest thing. We actually, in Madison Square Garden, we performed in the ring, and it was still just as magical. It was still, even as an adult, it was. I guess the kid that someone says, as long as they're kids, there'll be circus, and I say we'll always be kids somewhere in our heart, and as long as there's imagination, there'll be circus. So
that's right. But so you still had the dream. Mm-hmm. You were still working in theater. Mm-hmm. How did the circus become what you really wanted to do?
Well, I fell in love with the circus. I fell in even when I after leaving the theater in Pittsburgh and working on the idea for the circus, I started to read and go to the library and just read about circus. And I read this book by John Colhane, The American Circus, and it talked about the great families and the traditions of the circus performers and how they were passed down for generations, and the passion and the creativity of the performances, and just the freedom to express themselves and the people from all over the world. It just lived. The book just lived. It became a part of my spirit and my enthusiasm for getting into the sport. I thought all of the names of the families in circus were bigger than life, and I looked at them as such. So the spirit kind of took over, and I was determined to do this circus. Everybody told me I was crazy. A circus with black performers, no way, and this was people from the outside. Actually, the people inside of the circus received me well and were very excited and thought it was a great idea, but my investors didn't think so, and it was difficult. But I was sitting in my office and I was reading. Because you have to psych your mind up to do challenging things. And I was psyching my mind up reading these positive tidbits of sayings. And one of them said, if you're going to attempt to do something very challenging, then if you make one step, Providence will move in and make two. So I was holding that idea and that thought to my chest, and I was still doing theater, and I was in New York promoting a show that we had called A Good Man Is Hard to Find, and we were promoting it at the Beacon Theater off Broadway. And I was passing out flyers at a event, the cultural event, it was an African American cultural festival, and they had all of these booths that they had items and things for sale. And I turned the corner and I see this booth, and this booth says "Of Africans and Circus Rings," and it was just, it was Providence that took the two steps, because it confirmed my idea, confirmed my thoughts. Nothing else would confirm my thoughts. Everybody, my investors told me I was crazy. My friends told me I was crazy. But when I saw that booth, I knew I was on the right track. So it was just amazing. And it was Rob Houston, and he's a circus historian.
That's right.
And he had that booth, and he took me in. I flew to his home, and he introduced me to all the living African Americans that were involved in circus and contributed. I met Manuel Ruffin, and I had King Charles and Satin, and they introduced me to other people. So that kind of started the fire or the flame.
The one thing I have to say, just to confess, meeting with Cedric this past spring, what I was totally impressed with was his knowledge of circus history, because there are lots of times you bring people to the archives, because we were just looking at the wonderful resources that we have, and all of a sudden Cedric's face just lit up as if this stuff was the most marvelous things in the whole world. And it was so exciting to have someone who's such an impresario, but whose roots are in the wonderful history of the circus. And so you didn't spend just 1 year or 6 weeks. You spent a while pulling all of it together.
Yes, I wanted to study the history and learn about the circus. And what I found was a passion that was unmatched. I traveled around the country with bands and rock and roll, the Jacksons, and there were some passionate people, and I worked in the hip hop industry with the break dancers, and we were the first to take the big rap movement into break dancing, into concert touring. And you find at the top of the business or the game, you find very passionate people that live what they do. But there's a lot of people in the rock and roll industry that are there for money or there for fame or there for different reasons. And when I started looking into the circus, I found people that were just passionate. No matter what level they were passionate about what they did. And I fell in love with that. And I've not been able to. A lot of times the industry people say, "Can you want to come back?" And I'm like, "No, I love this."
Wow. So you had an idea, a vision, but then what do you do? How do you build a circus from ground zero? You have said of UniverSoul that it is the expression of people and culture, that it is different and unique, and that it's there to make a difference. So how did you start your building blocks from a marvelous vision and a mission to get a tent and rings and seats and performers? How do you do that?
Well, like I said, the people within the industry were tremendous, and that was, I didn't think I would be welcomed and met. I didn't think the idea was going to be something that was going to be as welcomed as it was. It was an idea whose time had come. From the very first meeting with Manny Ruffin to meeting a lot of the trainers and the people I rented tents from, and I mean, the first night, as an example, we rented a tent from. I'm so horrible with names, but the owner of the tent came and he brought a crew, and and I was expecting the opening night to be fraught with errors and bad experience, but just the people from Circus that were there made it come off perfectly. It was incredible, the knowledge, the experience that was applied from the people from Circus, and it was pulling it together. In pulling together the initial idea, we pulled together as many African American or African-based performers that we could find, and they were all over the world ready to come with, I'll be there. Everyone that I called, whatever country they were in, they were glad for an opportunity to express themselves and their culture. So that galvanized. It was a global galvanization of black performers that were in the circus. And then we used a lot of trainers from the original circus, and a lot of the trainers were from Russia or from American trainers that were white trainers, and everybody just put their best foot forward, no matter what color they were, no matter what nationality they were, no matter what they believed in. Circus sort of had its own language and its own medium, and that's what we got, and it was incredible the way it came together.
Share the story about trying to find a big cat trainer.
Again, it's a testament to the wonderful people in the industry. We're working with Kay Rozier, and I had hired this movie trainer that have done commercials with lions and tigers from California. And Kay was the person that the Roziers were the family that I was working with with a lot of the animals. And I sent this guy from California to here. And
Sarasota, Florida.
to
Again,
Sarasota.
linchpin of Circus, right?
And Kay called me a few days later, and she said, after about a week, and she said, you know, I'll do whatever you want to do, but this is proving difficult. This guy is not wanting to listen. He's the Hollywood type. He's not working out very well. So can you fly down here and see a rehearsal? So I flew down and I saw the rehearsal, and I saw the guy talking back to and disputing the trainer, disputing Kay, while he was in the cage with the lions. And Kay was trying to talk to him outside of the cage, and he was telling her what she was telling him wrong, and the cats were looking at him like, all right, that's good. I can eat you now, and it just, 2 or 3 things from that. I saw the relationship between the animal trainers and the animals, the love that they had for each other and the knowledge that they had. The animals knew Kay, and they loved Kay, and this guy was talking back, and you could read that. And so I immediately fired the guy, and I was sitting, because I could see the headlines on our opening day. UniverSoul Circus, grand opening, Lions E trainer. So I'm sitting there, and I was psyching myself up to go in the cage myself, and and try to do great things. One of the things that I've done is just sat in a room with the lights on in a chair and till I get myself. If it's all night, I'll sit all night until I get the thoughts prepared for what I'm about to do. So I was sitting there, it was about midnight, I was in the office, and I was thinking, okay, I've got to go in this lion's cage, and I've got to learn how to do this, and I've got to get the fear out of me, and I got to psych myself up. And then it occurred to me that I had a cousin that when we were kids, we did crazy things together. We go out into we had a woods next to us that it was our jungle. So we could jump off cliffs, we could fly through the air, make things to fly out and jump into the water, and we climbed cliffs, and it was just, we found snakes, and we just did everything in these woods. That was our playground. And so Ted, my cousin, had 14-foot boa constrictors in his bedroom that lived there. And we'd go visit him, and the boa constrictors would look like a big roll of carpet rolled up around the room. And he loved the snakes and the animals. I said, you sleep in here? Yeah, no problem. But they wrap around you when they get hungry, and no problem. So I called Ted, and he was driving a forklift, and at night he was working the midnight shift. And I said, Ted, what are you doing? He said, I'm driving a forklift. And I said, would you like to train lions and tigers or work presenting lions and tigers? He said, absolutely. So I said, well, can you be here tomorrow? And he said, well, maybe. And I'll call you back. And so he called me after he got off, and he said, I'll absolutely be there. And I flew him to Sarasota. And about 3 days later, the phone rang, and I saw Kay's name, and I said, okay, so what's going on? And Kay, I love this guy. I absolutely love this guy. And he went there, and he actually got a pallet, and he slept beside the cage, so close enough for the animals not to grab him, but not in an unsafe place. but close enough for the animals to know he was there. And he made it a point to get up in the morning to do everything, the feeding, the cleaning. He got to know the animals. And he lived there. He just lived on that pallet with those animals. So, you know, it was incredible because I thought I was going to have to go. But anyway, yeah.
You saw a lot of circuses before you put the final touches on UniverSoul on it. Were there some things you consciously avoided and those things that you just knew were right for your vision?
I did. I loved the Big Apple Circus when I first saw it because it took you into, it was beyond spectacle, and it kind of gave you a story and a different feeling of circus. And back to my appeal with the Spike Lee movies, it reflected a bit of culture, and I thought that's what Big Apple did for circus. It just reflected, the early shows reflected a bit of culture, and so it appealed to me. That one appealed to me more than the spectacle of the traditional circus. And so I kind of went in that direction because just like the plays that we dealt with that were focused on social ills, I always thought that you weave into live entertainment a bit of culture, a bit of reflection of where society is, and I thought they did that well.
What's in a name? You've changed from the Universal Big Top Circus, and how did it become UniverSoul?
Initially it was a team of us, and my ringmaster, he liked the name Universal Big Top Circus, and the reasons were, and I liked the name UniverSoul, so those are the two names on the table. He won, and we were Universal Big Top. And as soon as we got to Los Angeles, Universal Studios decided that wasn't a name they were going to let us have. So we ended up with my name. But UniverSoul is a reflection of the spirit from each one of us, because circus is a combination of people from all walks of life, all colors, all nationalities, and all beliefs. And the ability to express oneself through that art through the circus arts is global. So UniverSoul brings, and that spirit of expression comes from within. So UniverSoul to us allows that spirit to be shared throughout the globe. So that's what UniverSoul means to us.
The Atlanta Journal said Cirque du Soul on that. So what do you think what is unique about the production?
Well, it's the combination. The UniverSoul, of course, I come from a background of rock and roll and big lighting and big concert tours. So we immediately brought a lot of great lighting and sound, and that was a big part of the show. But more importantly, and even when I was doing theater, and I have to go back, I want to say something else too. We came to Sarasota, and this is where I spent a week. I came to this museum when we put together the circus, and I spent a week here in Sarasota, right in a hotel right next to this museum, actually writing the story. When you asked about it, I left out the fact that this is where we wrote the story. This is where we wanted to feel, because we had loved so much the American American circus book, and there was so many quotes from the museum. But we actually wrote the circus show and put it together right here in a hotel room in Sarasota. So that was that. But I'm sorry, I got off topic.
No, you never get off topic on that. just want to make sure we get to the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, and we should put it in context that Kenneth Feld on January 14th, 2017, announced that the Ringling show would cease after 146 years. Following that up, just 6 months, we had the 50th anniversary of the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. An exciting time for the Folklife Festival, being 50 years, but what was the focus? The circus arts. And part of that was UniverSoul coming to the Folklife Festival. And let me tell you, as being a person who sat in the seats, to hear the crowd roar, stomp their feet, interact with the UniverSoul team of great performers was something to behold on that. And it wasn't something that you wanted to miss. And if you just want to see a little bit of it, I'm going to give a YouTube shout out for Smithsonian UniverSoul. And what you'll get is some of the most incredible comments from people very, very small to very, very old who said what entranced them was this whole idea of being on the mall where we are celebrating diversity here in a unified fashion. It was absolutely tremendous on that. And what were your experience? I saw you running around the ring to make sure that everything was in place.
Well, you touched on it and you asked just a minute ago the ingredients of the circus. A large part of the ingredients is the energy, the interaction between the circus and the audience. The audience at our show are the biggest performers. I mean, it's that interaction, it's that fast-paced, non-stop music and that excitement and electricity that comes from you never know what's going to happen next. And we go from the stage to the ring. From a lot of the shows focus on the ring and they go next. We focus on the ring, the audience, the aerialist. So the music, the lights, the energy, and it's the music. We play blues music, rock and roll music, jazz music, every gospel music. It's just a cultural experience. So you talked a little bit earlier about the campfire and sitting around the campfire, and that's what the circus ring, seeing each other across the ring. Also, a lot of the call and response that when I say big top, you say circus. If you've ever been to our circus, you don't know whether to stand up and yell or at 1 minute, but that's the whole call and response that goes back to that campfire and that family sitting together. So we try to make it a family experience, and those are the ingredients. But the whole Smithsonian thing was like, it was a breath of fresh air in a moment where Ringling had just made an announcement that it just took a lot out of me, because I think that all that the Ringling stood for and everything that had gone through, from the World War I and to civil wars, World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, the tent folding, where people thought it was over and it wasn't. When the Big Top folded, everybody defined the circus for the Big Top, and it wasn't defined like that. They forgot that circus before the Big Top was, in the origin of circus, was the circle and the horsemanship and the equestrians, but that was done in structures. So the circus was able to go back to a structure and revive itself again. So the circus is so resilient. And when the Smithsonian opportunity came, it was a sign of that resilience, and it was a sign to me that the circus has a future. And I was, it was more than just, it was enthusiastic. So for me, the Smithsonian was a chance to express who we were to a wider audience, and how we felt about the circus, and the fact that we all belong, because we feel that the circus is just a myriad of people from all different walks, from all different cultures, and we're able to share our culture with all of these people. And the whole We All Belong show was timely, and circus has a way of being timely. Circus has a way of expressing itself through the times that we live in. From Dan Rice, who was a clown that dressed himself up in stars and stripes, and it was said that he had a lot to do with the making of the flag, and the Uncle Sam portrait that we know today. And then you have the hobo clowns, Emmett Kelly, and the Great Depression, and their effect on a lot of the money that Roosevelt gave out, because he was leaning on a shovel, that public works shovel, that became it just helped motivate times, and circus has a history of doing that. So the Smithsonian, to me, is a motivation to the future and to the times of the circus.
And let me tell you, the opening ceremony started off with UniverSoul, and you knew you couldn't go back on that because it was just so exciting and so much energy just in a single ring. It was absolutely tremendous. Well, what are your plans for the 25th anniversary of UniverSoul?
Man, I mean, we're in the middle of it right now, so you know, we want to do the biggest show that we can. But one of the things that we want to do is to celebrate the past 25 years and introduce the next 25. Where are we going? Where is circus going? And this year, and again, it goes back to the idea that circus has its own life. Circus lives in each one of us. It lives in the fans, but it also lives in itself. And I say that because there are certain things that have changed that I didn't just create. For instance, when we first started circus, we were trying to make circus with all black performers, and we started adding Russian performers and Chinese performers, and of course we had in the beginning, we had American black and white performers, but we ended up with everybody, and it became less about color and more about just the whole culture, and sharing and expressing that culture and living in a diverse world. And circus took that on. I didn't sit up and say, oh, we're going to be diverse today. Circus did that itself, and it's the pure nature of it. And so this year I was traveling, and I go around the world and I look for talent. And I was looking this year for where circus is going. So my thoughts were, where is circus going? Where are we going to be? You know, so in looking for that, I first went to Colombia and South America, and I saw a circus that was the circus of dinosaurs, and I said, wow, a circus of dinosaurs. And I went, and they actually had these mechanical dinosaurs that look real, and the whole theme of the circus was a safari, and all the performers were dressed in these safari outfits, and but they did circus acts, but you know, in the jungle, and they had these big birds with 8-10 feet wings flying over your head, and it gave you the feel of a rainforest. But then then I went to Peru, and they had like 30 circuses in July in Peru, and they were all celebrating the holiday, their freedom, and I went to buy tickets for the top 4 or 5 circuses, and the top one was a television show. It was a circus with a clown, like we used to have Bozo the Clown, or it wasn't a clown, it was a character, and that circus was packed. But the biggest audience was a circus school unit that focused on the culture of Peru. And the circus was about the culture of Peru. And what really I found incredible was they did all the acts of a circus, just one troupe. And they did the high wire, they did the trapeze, they did all of these acts, and it was a troupe. And I was amazed that, what attracted the people was the theme. What attracted the people was the culture. It was beautiful. They had the horse come out in the sand, and they danced with the lady and water and sand, and it was Peruvian. It was just about the culture and the country, the whole circus and that theme. And it was the hottest selling. And it was 20 other the Russian circus was there, and this circus, but those top circuses were themed. And then I went to the Fringe Festival in Australia, and they have one in Australia, but in the UK, in Edinburgh. And they had circuses from all over the world. They had the Chinese circuses, but Russian. They had every kind of circus, but they were all themed shows, and they all had a different theme. So China Goes Pop, and their circus was themed over pop music. And they had one circus that was about traveling in the circus, and the performers were acrobats that went through circus traveling. But just to see all of the different circus, they had an Ethiopian circus, and it was about Ethiopian culture. And all of these themes and how they were emerging under the circus banner was it just was testament to where circus can go. So I was very excited.
So the performers and the performance, true circus, or did they find another cutting edge of how to push circus in the human body for perfection?
And let me make sure I understand your question. I thought some of the skills, Barnum focused on the skills of human beings. I think Barnum brought to circus what human beings could do. And he thought that was amazing. And he combined with the menagerie and all of the other things, but originally he was about people and what they could do. And, I think that some of that is coming back, and I think that's amazing. I think what people can do is amazing. So in that respect, a lot of the things I saw were amazing. So
we have so much reality TV that really is pure circus. Do you see? That didn't come out right, did it? Reality TV show seems to have a lot of performers who really come from a circus tradition. Do you think that TV, as back in the 50s, is going to erode, or is it like having a computer? You got to see the real thing.
Well, I think circus, you've got to see the real thing. I think with circus, and I think in today's world, live entertainment, especially family entertainment, is something that you can't get in front of a screen. I don't have my phone, but you can't get that doing like this. You can't connect. And what circus does, and you were just saying that the ring, in the beginning there was the ring. And around that ring you could see each other, you could connect with families, this this form of entertainment will never die, and it actually is offering a unique experience for you to get away from those, for the generation to get away from those computers and go interact with people. And it's an experience that will never die. So as far as the big screen is concerned, we're actually providing entertainment that is rich in reward beyond the actual performance, but just the ability to interact with one another and to share family experiences.
So coming into the 25th year, are you looking at a new mission statement, a new vision, or are you just going to celebrate what?
A little bit of celebrating and faith that Circus reflects where we are and where we're going. And I've always believed that being in the live entertainment industry, that there's a certain responsibility to reflect where society is and to be a part of moving it forward. Because we're the entertainment. We're the ones that people come to be uplifted, they want the freshest thing from us. They want the newest thing from us. They want us to take them to stimulate their imaginations. And that's our responsibility. So, and then Circus translates that so well, and it reflects where society is going so well. So with that confidence, I move forward into the 25th, next 25.
That is fantastic. And I think really as we look, it is this uplifting message of UniverSoul. Just to have the ringmasters say, you are unique, I am unique, you are unique. Also, I think we are every family, we're every culture, every generation. We are UniverSoul. We all belong to one human race. And I think that is one of the most thrilling things, to go to see Circus and see great performance and absolutely feel that you are of one human race there.
Yeah, we really try to do that, and it's very important to create that family atmosphere. Yeah.
Well, the time has gone far too quickly for us. So we are going to end this collecting recollections, but in 2 weeks we have another person who was up at the Smithsonian, Karen Bell from the Circus Arts Conservatory, and what she's going to bring to us is, we had great performances, but she worked on a tent that was science and the circus.
Oh, wow.
So again, a different way of looking at circus, and it's important in education. But again, I can't thank Cedric to come down, and Jackie here also, to come down here for this whirlwind tour to really give us an insight into the wonderful, amazing, unique world of UniverSoul. Thank you so much.
Thank you.